Hey, my name is David. I'm a Coke Play Frontier from the Genesis Group. Today I'm going to try to give you guys a quick market update. Now, today Bitcoin had a boost up from the announcement from the Feds, and I will explain why that is. If this thing just hurry up and loads up. So, on the 4-hour chart, you see it had a pretty big, strong candle, and then it's kind of digressing now. And if you look, here it is. This is on a 2-hour chart. You know, look at the price at $50,383. Okay. The way I look at it, if it reaches that line, you're probably gonna have a rejection. Hopefully it doesn't, but chances are it's gonna have a rejection. Back here, I said, you know, if it even reaches this top line that goes up to 51,900, you'll probably have a rejection, and we didn't even reach it, and we got rejected. So hopefully it could go and break $50,000. And like I said, Bitcoin still needs to reach that 53,000 mark, go above it, retest it as support, and move on. Right now, there's a pretty good chance you might get rejected at $50,000. And the reason, or $50,300 or whatever around that area, because if you look at the other chart, here you can have resistance midway around 49,500, and you see the white dotted lines that cross each other. That's around 50,500. Okay, so if you see this orange line, it's been resistance. You hit rejection. You got over, but the candle printed under the orange line. Here, you had another rejection. So yeah, it could move up. If it hits the orange line, you break this yellow line here, hit the orange line, there's pretty good chance you're going to get rejected. We move up, move to another chart. This is a daily. If it moves up, look at the yellow line here, and it's around $50,000 as well. All right, so probably this is around 50,200, 300 as well. So you see this confluence between the charts that say that around 50,300, 50,500, is a strong resistance point for Bitcoin to overcome. So you'll probably see a rejection, but then hopefully you could bounce back up and break above it. If I've been saying this for over a week, if Bitcoin cannot break 53,000 and then use around 53,000 as support, we're gonna go further down south. You had news from the Fed and the stock market and cryptos, even gold, it went up. And you're probably wondering, why is that? Even though they're talking about rate hikes, having 3 rate hikes in 2022. So let me explain that here.
Series with part of our series.
Thank you so much for having me, and an interesting day to do the show.
Interesting day today, Fed Day on Wednesday. I'm just going to read a statement or a quote from the statement from the FOMC that came out earlier this afternoon. It says, in light of inflation developments and the further improvement in the labor market, the committee decided to reduce the monthly pace of its net asset purchases by $20 billion for Treasury securities and $10 billion for agency mortgage-backed securities. So they are quickening the pace of tapering. And on top of that, the dot plots, which also came out today, indicated potential rate hikes for the next couple of years. More specifically, 3 projected rate hikes for 2022, 3 more for 2023, and 2 more for 2024, all in 25 basis point increments. So it's pretty clear, Gary, the Fed does want to raise interest rates down the line, or at least it's signaling that it wants to raise interest rates. But why is it that we had rallies in both stocks and gold today?
So remember that. Yes, it's bad news, but why did it rally? And he's going to explain why. And there's a good reason behind it.
On the news.
Well, I think what we saw, first of all, was the fact that they made the distinction between when they would begin liftoff or the initiation of interest rate normalization and make that still data dependent on maximum employment. By compressing the timeline or accelerating the timeline for tapering, they will be done early next year, January or February. But Chairman Powell said during the press conference that he doesn't expect the first interest rate hike to come until June of 2022. And so what that means is that there's still going to be basically a 0% interest rate, Fed funds rate, for the rest of this year and the first half of the next year. And I think that...
There you go. So, I mean, according to Jerome Powell, they don't really plan on raising interest rates for another 6 months. All right, which will still allow companies and other people to get loans at a very, basically at zero. And so why is this important? And why is it important that even though the Federal Reserve will be tapering, that they're going to be purchasing less assets, we have to look at how much assets the Federal Reserve actually have in comparison to the stocks. So here it says the New York Stock Exchange is the largest stock exchange in the world, and capitalization is just over $28.2 trillion. It's $28.2 trillion in October 2021. Now let's look at the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has over an $8 trillion balance sheet. Okay, and it's expected to top $9 trillion next year. Think about that. They have over $8 trillion on their balance sheet. Why is that important? Well, it's important because, I think you have like 2-point-something trillion here. So look at last check, the Fed held about 5.2 trillion of treasury securities and 2.3 trillion in agency mortgage debt. So let's look at that $5.2 trillion. They buy the treasuries, which in return gives banks cash. And what the banks do with that money, they loan it out. They're loaning it out because they're putting more money into the system and hoping that because there's more money into the system, you're going to stimulate growth in the economy, stimulate investment, stimulate business opportunities. And that sounds good and all, but there's a thing called stock buybacks. Because where does a lot of that cash go to? It goes to corporations. Why? Companies are getting loans at extremely low rates. So, when you think about the inflation rate to the interest rate, when you're getting loans at basically zero or close to zero, you're actually getting paid money. The bank's actually giving you money to get loans in comparison to what you have to pay back later. And that's what that is. So then what do these stocks do? What do these companies do? They buy back their own stocks. U.S. stock buybacks head for a record in the third quarter. So right now, because the U.S. Treasury is holding over $8 trillion, maybe break $9 trillion next year, one, they're not get rid of their assets, right? Their balance sheet. They're going to keep the balance sheet. As long as they keep the balance sheet, you still have a strong support on the stock market. So if you look at the Dow Jones, remember $28.2 trillion is the size of the U.S. stock market. The Fed's balance sheet is around over probably $8.5 trillion. Well, that's a big percentage, right? So And all of that, especially the 5.2 trillion that they're buying in treasuries, and probably even in mortgage-backed securities, will support the stock market because it goes to companies and they do stock buybacks. It goes to people who they see that stocks are a good option and they'll get loans from banks to buy the stocks. And so it's basically the Fed is buying stocks. But you get what I'm saying? And so you have that big support, and that's why if you look right now, if you look at the stock market, it continues to go up. There's a lot of support for it. And that's, oh, sorry about that. And that's why you see that the stock market is actually rallying, because they know that the Fed is not going to shrink their balance sheet. And as long as they have trillions of dollars supporting the stock market, there's no reason for anyone to really sell off. And on top of that, they know that the interest rate is still basically at zero for the next 6-7 months. So there's no reason to sell off on the stocks. It's actually a good reason to buy into the stocks. And that's why if you look at the stock market, the Dow and the S&P, especially within the last, 5 days, you're hitting all-time highs. Now, you don't have that option with cryptos. If you look at the crypto market, it's not like their companies are investing, banks are giving money to crypto companies for them to go ahead and buy up their own coins, right? It doesn't work that way. That's why if you look at the stocks, it goes up, while cryptos, you had a down period. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're still in a bear market. If you look at the weekly, you still see higher highs and higher lows. So we don't, we can't say we're in a bear market yet. But right now, we still need to break $53,000. So that news from the Feds today is why you see a move up in all the markets, including the crypto market. So that's pretty good information that, you should know about. Now, if we look at KOK-COIN, let's look at KOK-COIN in the last 14 days. So what we see right now is no big deal. I mean, KOK-COIN went up. Anyway, okay, let's look at this price chart. Okay, so let's say KOK-COIN went up to like 670, I think. And it was kind of leveling off around, 650, and now it's at $6.09. This is no big deal. If you look at the history of KOK-COIN, and I've said this in prior videos, that as KOK-COIN pumps up, you have a pump up and then a drawback to stabilize. And the higher KOK-COIN goes, the drawback and stabilization could fluctuate more. And that's all we're seeing here. Okay, this is actually really healthy. If you guys look at charts, and you see setups, this pullback from 670 to 610, 609, that's actually a healthy pullback. That's what you want. So, because what happens is if you don't have these type of pullbacks, like look at this one. This was 482 to 468. That's what, like a 42-cent pullback. Here, 670, maybe it was like 660 something to 670. So you have the 60-cent pullback. What these pullbacks, why they're healthy, is because you're looking at the downfall. If you don't have any pullbacks like this right here, and you just move straight up, when you do have your pullback, the pullback's going to be even bigger. You understand? And a pullback is what it's doing is giving it the opportunity to build up energy to make its next move. All right? So remember, like even when we're here, you could check out my previous videos. I said it wouldn't surprise me if KOK-COIN still moved up. It did move up. I said it still wouldn't I still wouldn't be surprised if you still see a continual move up here, and that's what we've been seeing. So right now, even if it levels off here and it stays around 608 to 640, and then maybe close the gap more to like 620 to 640, that's very healthy, good sideways movement. That's beautiful. That's what we want on a chart. Even if it levels off at 620, it wouldn't matter. Right now, KOK-COIN overall, if you look at the chart, is looking, this is beautiful. This is hyperbolic right here. This is a beautiful chart. It's a beautiful setup. It still might not be over. We still got to see how it reacts, because all the news that's going out on KOK-Play and all the you could say everything that they're doing in terms of upgrading the platform, the future plans that they have, all the people that they're bringing in as part of the team, all the investments, just the plans, that the business deals that they're doing, so you could use KOK-COINs on other platforms. The utility case for it, and the spread and the growth of the platform, and the people joining the KOK-Play family. That's why you see constant growth. All right, so for KOK-COIN, it looks beautiful. Yeah, you have sideways movement, good. If we even still go up, it wouldn't surprise me, because the market's going up anyway. As for Bitcoin, I wouldn't be surprised if we go around 50,000 to 50,500 and get a rejection, and then maybe we could break it. If not, we might see some further downs, but hopefully we can break these resistance lines, and we'll see how that goes. But it still needs to break 53,000. That's a strong resistance line that Bitcoin needs to break. And so there we have it. All right, everyone. All of you out there, please stay safe. Please take good care of yourself. And also, yeah, it could be a tough winter, so you might want to prep up and prepare for a tough winter. Other than that, God bless y'all. Remember, you got to be, take good care of yourself spiritually as well. All right? So God bless y'all, and KOK on.